What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique. I'm a fight guy, a Forbes contributor, and I also write for Heavy.com. And we are powered by Fight TV and presented by Bet Online, going over every single fight on the UFC Fight Night, Jessica Eye versus Cynthia Calvillo card. In the event that you are just watching this particular fight prediction, make sure you look at the end of the video. There will be a link for you to look at every single fight or every single video associated with this card. So without further ado, let's jump right into the breakdown. We are talking about Anthony Ivy versus Christian Aguilera, which is likely to be the first fight added on this card, or first fight on this card, because it was just added like in the last 24 hours to this card. So it's more than likely going to be the one that starts the show, I would think. So both of these guys are making their UFC debut. I had to do some serious digging for Anthony Ivy because I'm going to be honest with you guys, before now I hadn't really heard of him, but thankfully there's a lot of fights of his that are on that are available for you to watch, whether it's Fight Pass or whether it's YouTube. There's a lot of stuff out there. And then because obviously I was familiar with some of the team members, I was able to do some good digging there to get a decent look at what we can expect from him. Christian Aguilera, I'm familiar with, been with LFA, California Extreme Fighting. He's been around for a while, but just now actually making his way to the UFC. Comes in 13-6. Anthony Ivy's 8-2. All 8 of Anthony Ivy's victories have come by finish, 5 KO, 3 by submission. Aguilera has 10 of his 13 victories by stoppage. All of them are KOs. He prefers to stand. He's not totally inept as a grappler, but he does prefer to stand. He likes those hands. He'll change levels with the shots up top to the midsection. Anthony Ivy is not horrible as a striker, but his definite strength is getting the fight to the ground. And one thing that I recognize for him, one of the fights that really stood out when I scouted him, was his fight against Jason Langolier, and that was in June of 2019. It was at Fury FC 33. And the thing that stood out to me in that fight was his cardio. I mean, those guys grappled non-stop for almost 2 complete rounds. And if anybody has ever done any kind of training at all in any level of combat sports, especially, they'll tell you that grappling is the most taxing aspect of any of the combat sports contact. So he didn't show that he had slowed down very much at all the way into getting a late second round stoppage via pounding once he was on top position. And we even saw Langolier get back up for a second, have some moments where he was trying to get his stand up going, but Anthony Ivy just smothered him, right? And Langolier is a long, athletic guy, good on his feet. His nickname is the Slim Reaper. And you might say he might even have an athletic advantage over Aguilera. So all matchups are different and they stand out separate. They're separate entities into themselves. But if Ivy was able to somewhat suppress the striking game of Langolier, maybe it gives you some sort of confidence that he'll be able to do the same thing against Christian Aguilera. And I'm trying my best not to call him Christina Aguilera and it's not because he looks like him. Obviously, he doesn't look like her, but it's only if you switch the A and the N. So it's like, whoa, it's kind of blowing me. But Bet Online has Anthony Ivy as a -190 favorite. Christian Aguilera is a +160 underdog. I think the fight is close, and I do think that there's obviously a path to victory for Christian Aguilera. But I'm of the opinion that Anthony Ivy will work the strengths of his game, because this is one of the things that I don't know how many of my preview videos that you've watched. But one thing that I usually kind of go on is I look at a fighter's fight IQ as well as their strengths and weaknesses. And when I talk about fight IQ, I talk about people actually fighting to their strengths and not getting in the octagon or getting in the cage trying to prove something, prove that they have this area of their game more developed and that sort of thing. We see that a lot. I think we saw that with Chase Hooper against Alex Caceres. I don't know. Maybe he still loses that fight if he takes Caceres to the ground, but I know he for sure loses it if he tries to stand as long as he did against Caceres. And I think that's exactly what we saw. So I don't think Anthony Ivy will get caught up in that. From what I've seen of him, he works to his strength. He knows that he's a grappler. He knows he has that cardio. I think he's going to take Christian Aguilera down, and I think he's going to control this fight from top position. I think he could be better at controlling the legs of his opponent once he has them down. And Aguilera is a veteran, more experienced, been around longer than Langolier and some of the other people that I saw Ivy fight. But I still think that coming into this fight, his UFC debut, both of these guys in the UFC debut, I think Anthony Ivy comes in ready and prepared to do what he has to do to secure a roster spot, right? I know there's a thing about, oh, the knockouts, the this and the that sells, but securing a roster spot is important. And I feel like he'll understand that. And I feel like he'll work to his strengths and get that done. So I think Anthony Ivy gets this by unanimous decision 30-27 or the 29-28 against Christian Aguilera. So we'll see, obviously, how it works out. But that's my official prediction, going with the favorite on that one.